and welcome to my channel. I'm Redneck Computer Geek, and today we're going to be using a Briggs and Stratton tune-up kit in order to do this particular Intek 18.5. This particular kit that's for these Inteks is tune-up kit number 5127B. The way you'll know which tune-up kit you need if you're not quite sure is when you're checking the air filter. There is one tune-up kit that is for an Intek that has a drum-style air filter, and there is another tune-up kit that is for the style like this one that has a panel filter. And you'll see that later on in this video. This tune-up kit actually comes with the air filter, the spark plug, fuel stabilizer, a brand new fuel filter, an oil filter, along with the amount of oil that you need in order to top off this particular engine, and some extra for later. Now, this particular kit comes with SAE 30 oil, which is great for if you're down south or in the mid regions. If you're up in a northern climate and you may be running this tractor during colder conditions, you may want to switch to a 530, and in that case this kit might not quite work for you because part of the price is the oil in the kit. At the end of this video, I'll also include all of the numbers for being able to buy the individual parts of this kit, but the reason I recommend this is because it's cheaper to buy the entire kit off of something like Amazon than it is to buy the individual parts. It saves you about 25% in order to just buy the kit and be done with it. So, from here on, we're going to break open the kit, we'll go over everything, and go from there. Before you start this project though, you're going to need a few things. You're going to need something to catch the oil in. You're going to need something to catch your fuel in. If your fuel line has hose clamps, you will need a flathead. If it has the regular Briggs and Stratton clamps, the press clamps, you will need flathead pliers. And you're going to need a spark plug wrench, which will be a 5/8 deep socket spark plug wrench. Okay, let's get started. I particularly usually start with the oil first, just because you can drain the oil, and while it's draining you can do things like the air filter along with doing the spark plugs. So we're going to start with draining the oil. You're going to have to locate the oil drain plug. In this case, it's a quick plug, and it's over next to the starter on the back side of the engine. Now I'll show you how to do the quick plug. Alright, so these quick plugs are pretty simple. You pop the cap off, set that off to the side, and then you take the plug and you press it slightly back and rotate it. So you're rotating in this direction. You rotate it and then pull out. And that puts the spigot over the edge of the frame rail. If you're really prissy about the side of your tractor, at this point you can put a little bit of a hose piece on here or something that'll bring the spigot out a little further. So that's going to drain, and once that's entirely done draining, we'll do the oil filter on the other side. But right now, while it's draining, we might as well move on to just doing the air filter and getting it done with. Alright, so the parts that we have are our filter and our pre-filter pad. So, you're going to take this with your thumb and fingers underneath here, give it a tug, and it'll snap. Then the rest will pull over, and then lift straight up, and it'll come out of the way. Now we take the filter out, just pull straight out with it. Throw this to the side. Now we have our pre-filter, and that pulls out. Now, when we go to put it back in, you'll notice one side has foam on it and the other side is flat. The foam side goes in towards the flywheel. Then you have your filter you put over the top, in nicely. When you go to put this back on, you've got the two tabs. Those slide into the holes corresponding here, like so. The handle goes over and clicks into the notch and then press down. There, our filter's done. Now that we're done with this filter, the oil should be done draining on the other side, and we can move on to doing the oil filter. Now, when you go to remove this oil filter, you're going to find that there's still oil inside. So if you stick a paper towel up in underneath, you can roll the oil filter back onto everything and catch the drain off with the paper towel. You'll also notice this is an upgraded filter. This is a Fram PH3614. You can buy it at most AutoZones and other places for an upgrade for this unit. And there we go. So here's our Briggs and Stratton filter, and I would like to point out the difference in size is quite distinct. So if you're running a machine really hard or in a business situation, you may want to upgrade. So if we grab a dab of oil, in this case I just pull it out of there, it doesn't really matter, go around the seam or the rubber seal and wing her back on there. Now I put it so that just holding it lightly, it goes in, and then I grab it forcefully and I give it about a quarter turn. And at that point, it's on there. There's no reason to tighten these just as hard as you can. It doesn't do you any good. At this point, it's all nice and sealed. So now back on the other side, you can put the oil tab back in, pull your dipstick out, and start pouring in oil. So in this case, it's the opposite of last time. You're going to push it back, and watch out because these actually will squirt when you push them back in, and then rotate it in this direction. And at that point, it seals back up, and place your cap on. Now from here, we just fill it back up. Alright, so this particular series of Intek takes 48 ounces of oil to fill. So we're just going to get this dumped in, fill it up, and move on to the spark plug. Now when you're pouring one of these jugs, if you actually tip it sideways and then pour, it comes out more evenly because it doesn't end up getting air pockets. And remember that it pours faster than it fills, so go slow. Alright, so this is the spark plug that's going to come with it. It's a regular Champion QC12YC. And when you get these, you want to check your gap. It's supposed to be at 0.3. So all we're going to do is grab our boot, and you want to come as far down as you can towards the plug end, because the goal is to grab a metal piece that clips onto this and yank it off of here. So the boot comes out a little bit, and then there'll be a detent, and you just grab that and give a tug. Set this out of the way, and yet again we're using a 5/8 deep spark plug socket. Loosening is that direction. There we go. Now some of them, because it is metal in aluminum, you will hear kind of a cracking noise if it's been in there a really long time. So don't be surprised. Once you get it broken free, with spark plugs you should always do it by hand as much as possible. That way you don't cross thread. So there's the old one. We'll get that pulled out. A little rusted up, but not too bad. And the new one. Now yet again, with spark plugs, because of their fine thread going into aluminum, you should always pre-start by hand if you can, as long as you can. So once you get a couple of threads in, then take your socket and put it over, and do the rest of it by hand as much as possible. Now, at this point, there's probably some torque spec that I should know off the top of my head, but all I do is just feel it about maybe, I don't know, about that much of a turn. Right about there. Place your spark plug on, and remember the little metal piece in there, when you go to press it on, it's going to make a click. That means it's on. At this point, Briggs and Stratton includes this little fuel filter. Now, on my test stand, I actually use a clear filter to be able to double check the gas that's coming through. So, on this, what I'm going to show you is that if your unit is a gravity feed unit, then it won't have this pump, this vacuum pump. And your fuel filter will go right about here with your carb over here. If your unit does have a vacuum pump, then between the gas tank and your vacuum pump is where you'll find your fuel filter. You just pull the clamps off and snap them on. Occasionally, the end of the hose, like this area, will be degraded. Just slice about ½ an inch off of it, and it should slip right back on. Well, that was rather eventful. Right after I got ready in order to fire this up, in order to show you guys that it was all set, tuned up, it ended up having the valve decide to come out of adjustment and backfired, which ended up causing all kinds of issues, including and not limited to taking most of the teeth off of this starter that was on it. A lot of people will get on and they'll buy these cheaper starters that have plastic gears. These Inteks are meant to have these starters with metal 14 teeth gears. So if you're buying one of these and it starts having issues, make sure to spend the extra for the starter that has the teeth gears that are steel. Thanks to everybody on the Main Mud Mowers Facebook group. Really appreciate you helping with this. Stay out of trouble, guys.